The National League East deficit is again within 2 games, but the trick has been in closing that gap, and the Braves are going to have their hands full trying to do so as they hit the banks of the Mississippi and Missouri to take on the league's hottest offense since the All-Star break. You're watching BPTV, Cory McCartney, along with Grant McCauley and Grant. Everything went right for the Braves in a sweep of the Pirates, but the degree of difficulty going to ratchet up in a big way as they take on NL MVP frontrunner Paul Goldschmidt and the Central leading Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a totally different test. I would say, when you're studying for the SAT and you take some of those practice tests and maybe you feel pretty good about where you are on certain subjects, well, that would kind of be like playing the Pittsburgh Pirates before you have to go take the big test, which is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals, the best team in that division. And, taking nothing away from a couple of the players that the Pirates have out there from a team standpoint, the St. Louis Cardinals have been playing about as cohesively as you can play since the All-Star break. It's been highlighted by the continued torrid pace of Paul Goldschmidt, the resurgence of Albert Pujols. They even went out and picked up an arm in Jordan Montgomery, who I don't know they could have ever expected what they got out of him so far. And it's just been able to all fit together to help them pass a struggling Brewers club, take over first place in the Central. And they've got 37 games of their own to sort things out and try to hold off the Brewers and get themselves back into October where they want to be.
Yeah, something akin to trigonometry, because these Cardinals are definitely a completely different kind of subject. Number one, since the All-Star break in Fangraph WAR and homers, weighted run created plus, weighted on base average, average on base percentage, and slugging. They are number 2 in runs in that period, have gone 22-9 since the All-Star break. They've lost 5 games. That's 5 games since the trade deadline. Goldschmidt, as you mentioned, just on an absolute tear, the NL's Fangraph WAR leader, threatening for a triple crown. He's got 33 homers, 105 RBI, a 339 average. He's hitting 135% above league average in the second half of the season. And then you add in just a white-hot Nolan Arenado, who's at 185 weighted run created plus since the break. Lars Nootbaar's at 175 weighted run created plus in that span. And you add in Albert Pujols in his renaissance as he drives that much closer to 700 career home runs. And this is going to be a big test for the Braves rotation, Grant. And they've been top 5 since the second half, but they're not going to have Max Fried or Kyle Wright pitching in this series. So going to be a big test for the arms that are going to see action.
Yeah, it will be. I know Spencer Strider really enjoyed his start against the St. Louis Cardinals back at Truist Park a while back. But as you mentioned, this is a very different team. Yes, Paul Goldschmidt was in that lineup. Nolan Arenado was in that lineup. Goldschmidt at that time was an MVP candidate. At this point, I think he's the MVP frontrunner. You talk about winning a Triple Crown, the possibility of that. He leads the National League in average. He's only 2 home runs off the pace, and he just took over the National League RBI lead with a big weekend for the Cardinals. So he's going to be, I think, the number one piece of business that you're going to have to handle if you're a Braves starting pitcher, Braves reliever, whoever it is. You got to know where you are in the lineup with that guy coming up because he is red hot, but it hasn't been done alone. Nolan Arenado, since the 1st of July, is batting .340 with 12 home runs. The Cardinals, meanwhile, as you mentioned, are on a torrid pace when it comes to winning, and that's been helped out by this offense that includes the Albert Pujols that I feel like is the guy that left St. Louis over a decade ago, is the guy that seems to have come back and found himself within shouting distance, at the very least, of 700 home runs. He's only 7 away. He's not going to get those this weekend, knock on wood. We hope he won't. But this is going to be a very tough offense. So Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton, and Jake Odorizzi are the 3 men that are going to be challenged to continue what's been a very good trend for the Braves over the last, 6 or 7 games. They have gotten a quality start in every single one of those. So the Braves have to be happy with the starting pitching they've been getting. I think the bullpen has been doing the job, but this Cardinals offense is about as hot as it gets, and they've been that way for a while.
So here's the pitching matchups. You mentioned Strider, Morton, and Odorizzi. It's Strider against Jose Quintana on Friday, Morton versus Jordan Montgomery on Saturday, Odorizzi against Adam Wainwright on Sunday. And like the Braves, the Cardinals rotation has been in the top 5 in Fangraph WAR in the second half. They're rolling out 2 of their trade acquisitions in this series in Quintana. And he's been solid, a 3.20 ERA in a Cardinals uniform. But I mean, Montgomery has been absolutely masterful, a .35 ERA in 4 starts. He's allowed 1 run in 3 outings at Busch Stadium. Strider has been rolling. You mentioned what he did against the Cardinals the last time he saw them, 6 scoreless and 12 Ks. Charlie Morton's coming off back-to-back double-digit strikeout games. I hate to keep putting my finger on the Jake Odorizzi start and saying, okay, that's the big one for the Braves, but he's going against Wainwright, who has been nearly 2 runs better at home with a 2.11 ERA. To Odorizzi's credit, I mean, current Cardinals are hitting a collective .74 against him. That includes Paul Goldschmidt, by the way. They have 0 extra base hits. But in a series where every outcome is seemingly heightened with the Mets playing the last place Rockies for 4 games, I feel like that start really does loom large in this series.
Yeah, of course it does. But I mean, you know that in the 2 starts leading up to that, the Braves know that they have guys that they expect to have good performances from, because that's what they have either shown in the case of Spencer Strider as who he is, or in the case of Charlie Morton, that's what you brought him in for. That's what you're paying him for. And that's what he's looked like lately. And Spencer Strider has also looked like that guy lately, and really just about every time out there, including his previous battle against the Cardinals back at Truist Park. But yeah, this is going to be totally different at Busch Stadium. The Cardinals play extremely well there. Jordan Montgomery, I don't know. This feels like one of those Alex Anthopoulos type levers that was pulled there to get him over to St. Louis, because he's allowed 1 run in his 4 starts. He's walked 3 guys and struck out 24 in 25 2/3 innings. That's how you get a 0.35 ERA. And oh, by the way, that's how you win all 4 of those games. So he's been very good. We know all about Adam Wainwright. We've talked about him over the years. And of course, you know, for a lot of Braves fans, he's one of the ones that got away, if you will. But Jake Odorizzi did look good against the Pirates. Again, we've already laid out the very distinct differences between the Pirates offense, which is a bottom 5 in the league, and the Cardinals, which is one of, if not the best in the league, especially right now. This is going to be a little bit different. Can he build on that start? Because I did feel like he missed his pitches much better. He made a little mechanical adjustment. He really pounded the strike zone. And if he's doing that and using all of those pitches he has in his assortment, I do think he's capable of giving the Braves at least a quality start to help keep that game close.
Yeah, and with Odorizzi, I mean, you go back to that start against the Mets, and during that rain delay, he mentioned that he had made some adjustments. It showed there, certainly showed against the Pirates, but we'll see what he's able to do big picture-wise as he takes on a much better Cardinals offense. And we spent a lot of time talking about St. Louis's offense. The Braves, meanwhile, Austin Riley has cooled down a lot since that kind of bull in a china shop run that he made on his way to the All-Star game. He's sitting 16% below league average this month, but no Braves player with more than a handful at bats has done more damage against the Cardinals. Is an 895 career OPS against them. Meanwhile, nobody over the last 30 days has driven in more runs or hit more runs when it comes to Braves than Matt Olson. So, Grant, if you're earmarking some players that could be offensive catalysts in this series, I certainly think those are a couple names to watch.
Yeah, those are a couple of names to watch. I always start with the guy at the top of the order, Ronald Acuna Jr. He has looked so much better, really, over the past, 3 weeks or so, since he kind of acknowledged that, hey, some days my knee feels great. Some days I'm not sure what to think about it. It just doesn't feel normal. But he has been playing a lot better. The home runs still haven't shown up, and I'm still waiting to see if maybe they just got lost in transit, got delayed. Maybe there's a special shipment of bats he's going to end up with, of course, above board. But I don't know what the answer is to why exactly Ronald Acuna Jr.'s home runs haven't been a little bit more plentiful. He hit that monster shot against the Mets at Citi Field, and I thought, well, maybe that's a little reminder of the power, and Ronald Acuna Jr. will start to show a little bit more of that. But we really haven't seen much since. But he's still getting on base. He's drawing his walks. He's getting hits. He's scoring runs. He's doing all those things. Outside of being caught stealing a couple of times, I really can't quibble with what Ronald's doing at the top of the order. I'd just like to see more, as everyone would, and as I'm sure he would like to as well. Then I think you go right to Dansby Swanson, who has been kind of a catalyst for the Braves all year long, kind of in lockstep with Austin Riley. When you talk about the 2 best Braves players, consistency-wise, I think those are the 2 guys that you really look at. Yeah, Dansby had a couple of rough weeks to start the year. Riley's had a little bit of a down couple of 3 weeks here in August by his standards. Maybe those guys can get themselves on track. And with what Matt Olson's been doing lately, and I tracked his numbers way on back to the very 1st of June, this guy's knocking in about a run per game over his last 75 games. So that's the kind of production you brought him over for, and that's the kind of pace that the Braves need him to keep up over the final 36 games of the season. They need Matt Olson in there big time. And oh, by the way, those couple of 21-year-olds at the bottom of the order, I don't put anything past them when it comes to starting rallies or being right in the middle of good stuff happening for the Braves.
The Braves sorely going to need that production because the next 22 games, just 3 of them against teams that have a winning percentage above 500. So the Braves need all the help they can get right now in the W column. That'll do it for this episode of BPTV. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification button, get that alert each and every time we drop a new episode. Of course, you can find us Sundays on 92.9 The Game in Atlanta on From the Diamond. Until next time, I'm Cory McCartney. He's Grant McCauley. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon, Braves country.